I am absolutely delighted to address you this morning, both as a director of Waterford Chamber, but also as a business owner of an estate agency, Liberty Blue Estate Agents, in business in Waterford 25 years. There are three items that I would like to highlight to you that would improve the rental market in Waterford and in the rest of the country. One, a different approach to the tax treatment of private landlords, a tax break for student accommodation to free up housing stock, and a reconfiguration of the €30,000 grant scheme to first-time buyers and extending it to other participants, which would also entail a reconfiguration of our government's approach to vacant premises. So the rental market is in absolute crisis. Today in Waterford City, there are 13 properties to rent, and one of which is a student property. And that's actually the biggest number I've seen advertised for rent in a very long time. There's a housing development called Templars Hall, which mostly houses students. Surely we'd be better off to have those houses rented to families. We should be housing students in purpose-built student apartments and over city centre shops. Why not introduce Section 50 tax schemes for student apartment blocks strategically located with good governance? This would free up badly needed homes for families, and we will need student accommodation for the Technical University of the South East. Today, if I'm asked to find a house for a family in Waterford, I'd have to put them on a wait list, and it will probably take me 3 months to find one house in Waterford City. I've never, ever seen the situation so bad in my 25 years in the business. In actual fact, Liberty Blue Estate Agents, we closed our doors at the start of COVID almost 2 years ago, and we've never opened our doors since. We are open for business, of course, but it's appointment only. And the reason our doors are closed is because we cannot cope with the people outside the door who want to rent property. They are crying at the door and they're distressed on the phone. And my team are distressed, as am I, about the situation. We need new supply, and we are reliant on the private landlords, and they're fleeing the market. It doesn't make sense for landlords to stay in the market right now. 2,080 landlords exited the market last year around the country. We absolutely need to keep private landlords in the market. We need incentives. Who are private landlords? For example, we have a couple, Deirdre and Sean. And when they got married, they moved into Sean's house and they rented out Deirdre's house. And Deirdre still has a mortgage on her former home. The tax treatment of private landlords isn't equal to the tax treatment of big funds. In actual fact, we have a landlord called Pat who lives out of Ireland. He's an overseas landlord, and he pays in the region of 20% tax versus Sean and Deirdre, who live on the Dunmore Road, who pay in the region of 50% tax. Then put all the expenses on top. And from €1,000 rent a month, Deirdre and Sean get in the region of €400. Although lots of our landlords don't even have enough money to cover the mortgage. So we had a landlord in the office last week. Her name's Bridget, and she was actually really distressed because she got hit overnight with the rent pressure zone. So her rent today is €570 a month. That's not enough to cover her mortgage. She's allowed to increase her rent by €12 going forward. So her mortgage is 900 and the market rent is in the region of €1,000 for her house. Yet she gets 570 before expenses. Surely landlords should be paying tax on profit. This isn't a sustainable situation, as we can clearly see. Why, Minister, not give Bridget a tax credit? Surely being taxed on a negative position of minus €330 per month is very unjust. Landlords like Bridget actually don't have any money to do maintenance. And we can see that we manage a portfolio in the region of 400 properties. We'll continue to see the situation deteriorate until proper action is taken. So I'm asking you, Minister, would you engage in a meaningful way with the people in the industry who know what's really going on the ground? Now, Minister, it's absolutely great to hear about the new grant for 30,000 to help people buy derelict properties to renovate in and live in. You mentioned recently vacancy is an untapped resource that we should be using. I 100% agree. However, is it really going to work? In my opinion, most people who have an appetite to do big renovation work in actually property or construction. As an estate agent for over 25 years, most people, in my view, cannot visualize how a property will be when it's presented in really bad condition. And the average family doesn't have the time or the know-how to do a massive renovation on a derelict property. I think our government needs to support and encourage co-ops, which include experts such as architects and builders coming together to actually make it happen. Will this grant in isolation be user-friendly? And is 30,000 really enough? Why does it have to be limited to homeowners? Why not open it up to everybody, as it'll create new stock for housing? Personally, I'm of the view that this grant could be like a car with no engine. However, with further expansion and turnkey solutions, it could be really impactful for our cities and towns across the country. There are too many properties sitting idle. CPOs and vacancy tax should free up more stock. Can you review how the CPO process can be accelerated, Minister? Now, the current 25-year lease scheme I'd love to talk about, whereby investors lease property to councils for 25 years. And yet there's no equity at the end of this lease. Doesn't make sense in the long term. For example, an apartment that costs 120,000 is purchased by Larry today, who leases it for 25 years to Waterford Council at a rent of somewhere in the region of 270,000 over a 25-year period. This amount paid out for the lease might work out at 3 times the amount that Larry paid for the apartment. That doesn't even take inflation into consideration. It's dead money paid out by the state, I suppose us really, the taxpayer. And surely it makes sense for our councils to be funded to purchase the property instead of Larry. You're setting up a new dedicated vacancy unit in the Department of Housing, Minister. This is very positive. As I understand, a dedicated team will work on dealing with vacancy, which will be tasked with making sure that local authorities deliver a consistent level of properties. All of us in business are here to meet targets, and we have to be held accountable. Will there be clear metrics, and will people be held accountable to deliver on this promise? 45% of units delivered across the Repair and Renew scheme nationally has been brought on stream by Waterford. It's a great testament to Waterford Council. But when you look at 23 local authorities nationally who've delivered less than 5 homes under the scheme in the past 4 years, that baseline is seriously low. I personally think they're dismal figures, and hopefully with the resources now being given to a dedicated vacancy unit, we will see real numbers that will make a real difference. Considering Waterford has in the region of 5,200 vacant properties sitting empty right now, I'd ask you to consider rolling out a really big PR campaign, because it's a very well kept secret. And we should share this because it's a win-win for everybody. Finally, Minister, Waterford has been voted the best place to live in Waterford, and we're very, very proud of our city and our county. And I'm asking you, Minister, review the tax treatment of landlords like Bridget, Sean and Deirdre. Help us keep these landlords in the market, because we desperately need the supply. Review this grant allocated for derelict properties. Don't limit it to homeowners. Commit to delivering resources for a vacancy homes unit. announce targets and deliver meaningful numbers on 5,200 vacant homes in Waterford. Gurv Magad.